Welcome to Building Healthy Relationships, the 4 Habits podcast, helping you enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Andrea and Jon Taylor-Cummings, recognized authorities on the subjects of improving work relationships and cultures, as well as couple and home relationships.
Well, hello and a warm welcome to all our podcast guests around the world, whether it's good morning, good day, good evening to you. Really great to have you join us. And today we're looking forward to a great conversation, really in the Harmony at Home camp. It's very much around home relationships, particularly effective co-parenting after separation and divorce. And to join us for that conversation, we have the wonderful Claire Field. Welcome, Claire.
Good morning. Thank you very much. And thank you for the invite. Really looking forward to it. Thank you.
So are we. And of course, we want to do it properly, don't we? Give Claire her full
Always
introduction.
Pardon me, voice going there. Always like to do it justice, I was going to say. So let me read the bio, and then we can get into the conversation. So, something
do
in
that
my
again?
throat. No, that's fine. Let's go. All right. So Claire Field is the managing director of Parenting Apart, an organization dedicated to supporting families through the often challenging transition of separation and divorce. With over a decade of experience in family mediation and child-focused dispute resolution, Claire has become a leading figure in her field, known for her compassionate and effective approach. She is the founder of the Parenting Apart program, and she's also a trained mediator and has worked with hundreds of families, helping them navigate the emotional and practical aspects of co-parenting post-separation. Under Claire's leadership, Parenting Apart offers a range of services, including workshops and resources designed to facilitate healthy communication and cooperative parenting. Very important to get that right. Claire is a frequent speaker at conferences and seminars, and she regularly contributes to publications on family well-being and conflict resolution. So formally, welcome, Claire.
Thank you.
As Andrew said, great to have you on the show with us. There's so many questions that we have, but why don't we jump in?
Yes, and this just gives the highlights, we're sure. It would be great to hear from you, Claire, a bit of background context to what's driving the passion that you have now, and bringing it up to date to what you're doing now and the role that relationships play in that. So over to you.
Thank you, Andrea. The passion absolutely comes from my own childhood experiences, and I think there's so many of us that have gone through some tough times in our childhood. But unfortunately, my sister and I, when my mother and father separated, I was very young. I was only sort of 2.5, so I can't really remember too much of the initial conflict. But what I do remember is that being dropped off at the end of the drive and having to be just, walking up to the front door on our own, and parents wouldn't speak. And because of their bad relationship, we then lost touch with really having a relationship with our own father. So that was a massive sort of gap in our childhood. And then unfortunately, my mom remarried, and my stepfather, and unfortunately, he was an alcoholic, and it then drove my mom to seriously drink very heavily too. So we had a very dysfunctional environment to live in, and it was very scary, it was very frightening, and the domestic abuse and violence in it was just horrendous. And I can just honestly still remember sometimes, even though well over sort of 50 plus now, but even those times of the panic and the fear and not knowing what was coming next or what was around the corner.
Wow.
And it just resonates with me every single time that I try and look at helping a family or looking at where families are, is that for the children, they really do need a voice. They really do need somebody to stick up and to say, hey, hold on, this can't continue. Or, come on, we can't allow this for the children. So I suppose that commitment, that passion, that absolute sort of voice of the children comes from exactly my childhood. And I just sort of made a solemn promise to myself that if I can help in any which way of a child or a family going through crisis or difficult times, then I want to do that. So that's where it all comes from.
That's just so powerful, and we totally get how this pain has driven you to make a difference for so many other children now.
I was
And
going to say it's a sort of story that you hear or you see on so many soaps and movies, even. And sometimes you think, really, is that really what the reality looks like? As you say, one parent gone, the other one alcoholic, or both now into alcohol, and so yeah, it sort of gets the heartstrings going to think this is real. This is what you're actually
this is
going
what
through.
people are actually experiencing day by day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to the outside world, we looked like a very functional family. You know, my parents were quite, wealthy in a sense that, we had private schools, we lived in a nice biggish house, and it all looked hunky dory. But,
Right.
I can remember even my sister and I'd wish sometimes I could just be going home to another family, not to be going home for the trauma and all the arguments and all the rest of it. And of course, educational, going to school, it was only really at the last minute that I absolutely sort of broke and said to the school, this is what's going on at home. This is what's happening, because, I wasn't an academic. I wasn't, and I'm not.
Mm.
But of course, schooling was failing because we were up most of the nights dealing with horrendous arguments between the parents. And and I'm talking, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, they
Wow.
would still be arguing, slamming doors, breaking windows, chasing each other, fighting. Do you know what I mean? And, it was just horrendous. And apart from the police being called to literally, try and stop it, and perhaps even take my stepfather to the cells for the night just to give us some sort of only to be let out again the next morning to start all over again, because
But
social
again.
services weren't in the capacity as they are today, where there is a lot more safety and protection around children, where really when, we were younger, it was just classed as a domestic incident and, crack on. So
Yeah.
children had no real protection then. But, it affected every aspect of my sister and myself's lives. Of course it did. Do you know what I mean? And I sometimes think, if it hadn't have happened, or I hadn't have gone through that, what would I be doing now? Where would my life be? Or if it had been anywhere sort of normal? I mean, what's normal? I mean, I say that to my parents when I talk. I'm certainly not normal,
Yeah.
and I probably
Yeah.
don't want to be normal. But
Yeah.
it does make you think. So yes, every aspect, I have a possibility of making a difference to a child or children and families, then yeah, I dive in both hands and say, I'm here to help.
And it's so wonderful that you can become the voice for children, because all the things that you described are so below the radar. They're very real, they're very lived, but they're below the radar because, people might just see what's going on between the parents and, the relationship of the couple breaking down, and not understanding the follow-on impact for schooling, for emotional well-being, for the sense of safety. But now you are that voice with all the
Absolutely.
emotion and passion.
And when we
Wonderful.
talk to parents, I say to parents, I hear it, I see it, I feel it, I respect it. We are in a difficult place. But for your child or children, they are half you, mom, and half you, dad. And
Yeah.
they evolved from a personal relationship. And for them to have their self-worth, their own identity, and a real, what I call a piece of feeling they are wanted and needed and loved, you two have to lead by example. Because if you take that away from them, then you are emotionally harming them, absolutely. But you're also taking away that identity. And, at the end of the day, you both obviously love your children very much, and you both absolutely want the best for them. So I'm going to help you find a way of putting some of the negatives, the worries, the concerns, whatever you might be feeling, into a safe place where you really focus on the needs of your children. And we're going to do that by some real positive communication. And what I do is I help parents I actually do role play. So I become dad and I talk to mom. And then I'm mom and I talk back to dad. And parents actually feed back and say, do you know what, Claire, that was so massively important for us, because we've actually even lost how to talk to each other. Do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
show some empathy. Or so I start by saying to parents, right, Number one, you're here. Well done. Very proud of you both. And if your children actually did have a voice right now, which I am their voice, I'm going to be saying, thank you, Mummy. Thank you, Daddy. Because you're here to do something to get things better. So that has
Wow.
to be applauded. And then I
Mm-hmm.
say to parents that, you know, I've spoken to parents individually. I've got a real good understanding of their journey, how they met, the best bits, the wobbly bits,
Mhm.
not so good bits.
The
And
bits
where
they've forgotten,
yeah,
all the good bits
absolutely,
they've forgotten.
absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I asked them to really sort of hypothetically talk about and think about where they would really like things to be. How would it work for them? What would it look like? What would it be feeling like?
Hmm.
So then I say to the parents, right, you, Dad, are where you are. Mom, you are where you are. So let's now, honestly, let's talk to each other about how we feel. Because if we're going to build respect and trust into another platform of parenting, which is going to be
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of your lives until you take your last breath in your body, so this
Hmm.
really has to be a big investment, okay? Because even though as
Amazing.
parents, best job in the world, it's the hardest. We
Mm-hmm.
need
Yeah.
to know how you're feeling, Mom, to how you're feeling, Dad. So then I go
Hmm.
into role play again. So I start to talk by saying, hypothetically, I'm Dad at the moment. Well, Mom, I'm feeling really frustrated. I feel absolutely gutted that we're here. I feel let down. I feel very emotional. I feel sad. I feel angry as well because I'm not seeing the children, or I feel that you've just shut me out.
Mm.
But I really feel with some good help, certainly from Claire's help, I feel that we can make this better and we should make this better. And I feel if you could talk to me a little bit more or help me just understand a bit more about what's needed for the children or routine, I feel I could really benefit, and I could really benefit by helping you. And then I
Hmm.
come down and I talk about their mom saying, well, I hear what you're saying and I feel the same. I feel very frustrated. I feel very hurt. I feel very sad. But I do feel that we should absolutely get this better. And I'm glad we're here. So that's just a minuscule. That's just a top of an iceberg in a sense of, but that in itself just gets the parents, because I said when we ask somebody, whoever it might be, but important people as well as even if it's a neighbour or whoever, how are you and how are you
Mm.
feeling? Then we listen. We stop talking and we listen, because automatically our subconscious and a conscious brain will hear that person talking and they'll go, no, I didn't say that. Well, I didn't mean that. Oh, yes, I did. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yes. Oh, shouldn't have done that. And that allows then us to become more functional and more what I call respectful in then how we communicate. Because it's not just about communicating, it's how we communicate.
Yeah.
So I take the parents through those steps and it makes a big difference. And I hold their hands, literally say, come on, we can do this and it's okay. Because, you know, emotionally, a lot of parents are very, very sad because it's an end of something, and, you know,
Yeah.
relationship, whether it can't continue or even if it can to a certain point, but you know, it's an end of something, isn't it? And certainly when it comes to children and families, it's a big change, massive change.
Yeah.
Divorce, little word, but my God, it has a huge impact.
Huge impact. But I'm guessing it works because they've both decided they want to do something about it. They want to be able to communicate because they recognize that. Or do you have situations where you're working with a couple where, well, I guess they no longer want to be together as a couple. But do you have situations where one of them is just not even interested in the parenting and one is trying and you're trying to support them there, or do they both have to want to do the parenting bit?
Ideally, in an ideal world, absolutely, they have to show some commitment to
Yeah.
wanting to come onto the program, but also to engage, because, you know, at the end of the day, we inform parents. We're not here to judge. We're not, because that's the last thing. We're not here to take sides, because that's the last thing. We are here to support parents, completely impartial, to make sure that we can help them make the right decisions for their children going forward. Because at the end of the day, as I say to parents, while you have breath in your body and you have options to explore, then that is far better that you do that than have a judge or even a magistrate making decisions on
Mm-hmm.
behalf of your children that they don't know, haven't met, and have no idea what's like on the big outside world for you guys. Do you know what I mean? Because everybody is different. We're all unique. So we say to
Absolutely.
parents is are you both wanting to make a difference and make things better? Yes, absolutely. They say, great, okay.
Mhm.
So this is where we sit, because we also have a responsibility, because as a professional person actually supporting parents, as much as we are human beings, we're not anything special, but we have a responsibility. We all have a duty of care to protect children. So we say to parents that if we see or hear or think or feel or smell either parent trying to derail the process for their own benefit and not prioritising the needs of their children, we will bring that evidence to them and ask for change. And it does happen because some parents, because of the emotions, we can become quite entrenched and we can quite sort of stuck, and I get that. But if after we've given evidence to say, look, that can't continue, because if you do, that would be causing harm, or that would be causing some mental health issues, or whatever it might be, in a sense of affecting that child or children, if that parent isn't able to change, or actually refuses blankly to say, I'm not prepared to change and that won't happen, we will terminate the programme, and we would then refer it to Children's Social Services for emotional harm. And we tell the parents very clearly. That's what we would do. And that makes a big difference, because when you are emotional, you're not always thinking rationally, and I get that. We're not always thinking sensibly with some common sense in there, because it's all about our emotions.
Yeah.
But once you tell parents that, we all have a duty of care to protect children, but whilst we're in this format, this is the rules, these are the boundaries, it makes parents really realise this isn't a game, and this isn't
That's
about
right.
scoring points. This isn't about saying, well, he said, you said, well, I didn't, he did, well, you did, well, I didn't, all the rest of it. No, not at all. We need to now really look at really exploring all those options and avenues of what both of you can honestly commit to continue to be the best mommy and daddy for your children.
Yeah, amazing. And Claire, how do people find you? At what stage do they get engaged with you? What's the process like?
It all depends in really how much knowledge or people know. Realistically, I would say probably 70% far too late when they're on
Yeah.
hearing proceedings, which is it's a journey and a half for a lot of families. We would much rather be the first option alongside a choice with mediation. Mediation can work and absolutely offers a whole range of support, absolutely. But if mediation hasn't been able to really, what I call, help or assist the parents, then realistically it would be much better if they could obviously then have a consultation at least, or know about the Parenting Apart programme. What happens after mediation, and because it's government funded, it has to be like signed off that they've been to mediation before they can put an application into the family courts. And
Right.
because we're not funded by government, even though that would be my absolute biggest ambition, because it should be a choice. Parents should be given a choice, and every family deserves choices, but all the help. Just me, just because they have to pay for it doesn't mean that they can't have choices. So ideally, we would love to be one of the first resources. A lot of family law solicitors, they know of us. They will say to parents, look, there's mediation, also give Parenting Apart a ring, have a chat, see how you go. But
Right.
unfortunately at the moment they're coming from a very entrenched high level of conflict from the family proceedings, where then we're looking at doing 8 to 12 weeks pieces of work with families, because there's no way in 4 weeks we're going to turn a family that's been in family proceedings for 2 years. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
no way.
I guess a lot of them are coming to you saying, look, I don't want anything to do with this person. Yes, I care about my children, love my children, want to do the best by them, but I'm done with this person, don't want to do anything with them. How do you address that? Because clearly they have to be able to do that. The reality, I guess they're looking at life through some kind of filter where they don't want to do that. But that's just not reality, is it?
No,
How do you
absolutely
address
not.
that?
Absolutely. We say to parents, look, we can't force anybody to the table. The only time parents have to come to us is when it's ordered by the courts, but that's normally in public law proceedings. So basically the courts are really, social services then commission us to do some directive work with parents. But what we say to parents is, when they phone up and say, look, what do you do? How do you do it? What sort of support? And a bit like what you're saying, Jonathan, I said, but I just don't even want to sit in a room with her, or I don't want to sit
Yeah.
in a room with him, and and this, that, and the other. And I said, look, whilst you're feeling the way you're feeling, and I hear what you're saying, just imagine also how your children must be feeling also.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, you're mommy and daddy, and you are the two most important people in children's lives. And as much as they might be saying to you, Mom, I don't want to go to dad's, don't want to go to dad's, or they might be saying, oh, I went to dad's, didn't have a nice time, it's because they're feeding off your emotions. Children are very cute, they're very switched on, they're little sponges, and they are just so protective. God love them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And whether it's to mommy or daddy, and because they haven't got the adult strategies of, like, you know, using a bit of tact or, okay, a bit of a white lie here, I won't say that, but I'll do this. They just say it and do what they feel, and that's a protection. So as parents, this is the hardest part of being a parent. You have to put your own thoughts and feelings to one side while you focus on what the needs of the children are. And if you really, really love your children, then you'll want to at least care for what they love. And believe me, they love you both. So by having some really good support, not on your own, but having somebody with you that's going to support you both in a safe and secure environment for you to talk and talk about your children, then I would be asking you to reconsider.
I can see you. I can just, you know, feel the presence in the room where you're this very tough but very safe and very supportive presence to help them move beyond whatever emotions they're feeling and really focus on finding a way forwards for the sake of the children. Bless you, Claire, for the work that you're doing. That's just amazing. What from what you've seen with, you know, the various complexities of the issues that families are turning up with, or couples are turning up with, what patterns do you see that we need to pay more attention to in relationships to prevent getting to the stage of having to separate? Big question, but would just love to hear what thoughts, you know, what are the themes that you see coming through time and time again, and you say to yourself, if only we knew how to do this better, we could prevent the rest happening. What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's a huge question, and I feel like deep down it would probably take me a good day to really answer it in detail, because
Yeah.
there's such a big arena
there.
around it. But it comes down to, I feel, a majority of it's education, because if you look at it from the start, when a couple become a couple and then become parents, it's part of the process that, you know, having a pregnancy, you go to the hospital, you learn about, you know, it's all antenatal and the growth of the baby and the pregnancy, and, you know, even going for the labour, and, you know, the partner's been invited in and helping and supporting, and absolutely. I still feel there's a big gap to really help parents understand the change within relationships when you become parents. You know, and that's not trying to dismiss or be overcritical to what's in place, but I don't think there's enough, in a sense of the real reality of talking to parents about how having a baby, or even from prior to even becoming a couple and having a baby, what that responsibility looks like, what the needs of these children really are going to be requiring. Do you know what I mean? And to be the best parents we possibly can. And let's face it, I always say to my parents, how you parent, or how I parent to the next parent, it's a majority of how we're brought up ourselves, isn't it?
That's right.
And we sort of have our own little thoughts and feelings in our heads. But I think at the end of the day, it is really about how parents understand that it's going to change their relationship, and it's going to change it in a way that actually they both need to be on board, that it's not a criticism to either one, because the dad will think, well, mom's ignoring me now because all she's doing is cooing and talking and feeding the baby. Mom's going, well, actually, I'm in the house all day and dad's going out and carrying on his normal life, and I don't see anybody from one day to next. Do you know what I mean? Sleep deprivation is horrendous, because it makes us feel like monsters with green eyes and horns and going around. So I really do feel, and I hope, and I'm sure my daughter won't mind me saying this, but she's given me a beautiful grandson, and they adore him and I adore him. We all adore him. He's gorgeous. But my daughter had a very, very difficult labour, pregnancy, fabulous. And if I hadn't been able to be where I think available to her and absolutely wanting to be and literally moved in, I would really fear to where that relationship and also how they would be as a couple, as parents, because it was massive. Do you know what I mean? And I just think so many parents have to struggle. There's lone parents, single parents, as well as.
Yeah,
But I think
absolutely.
if we could really bring something in from the onset to saying, look, you know, having children is a privilege, it's wonderful, and it is, absolutely. But it's hard work.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a huge responsibility. And, you know, you can't just put them in the cupboard and say, right, I've had enough. And you know,
Exactly.
I'm going out for a few hours now. Do you know what I mean? And I think about
Yeah.
a network of support as well. We see so many parents that certainly have really wanted to, you know, enjoy the baby, have the baby, but they haven't got family locally. They've moved areas, or it's moved from jobs and things like that. And then that can put a huge amount of pressure on a relationship. So I think it's all about really exploring, educating, learning, and really being able to understand, and also and saying to parents, look, if you really are struggling and you feel that you know you need some help or something, ask for it. This is where you can go. This is how we can help you. Because I think parents feel embarrassed as well, which are, you know, hands up, you know, you want to be seen to the outside world. I can do it, I'm fine, I'm surviving, everything's
Have it
okay.
together. Yeah.
And certainly for new fathers, you know, massive, because, you know, their body hasn't changed, that, you know, they haven't got swollen breasts and, you know, trying to breastfeed and everything. They're normal. That's it. But, you know, internally, you have changed massively,
You
you know, to even, you know, supporting your partner through the pregnancy, the birth. I mean, some fathers find the birth very traumatic, you know. It's a huge thing. And I just think, I would love to be able to talk to the schools, children, certainly even with antenatal classes, by saying, look, brilliant, fantastic, enjoy, but, you know, there's going to be days, there might be nights, there might be this, but we're here to help, or at least, you know, grab some more support, or don't panic, you know. And I had a couple that went through such a difficult time with no real support, so they literally ended up with going through divorce, you know, and they came through my door holding on to their divorce files going, this is it, it's over, and all the rest of it. But by just getting them to really talk and to say how they were really feeling, they're still together today, and they're so happy, and they're part of my families that testimony are saying, thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God, we could talk it through, and we met Claire or Parenting Apart to get us into a better place. So it just helped.
That's amazing, because one of the questions we were going to ask is if you've had any of these cases where real challenge and turnaround. And we're so on the same page as far as education early on and at these key moments in life, because we found from the work that we do with, you know, how do you make relationships strong intentionally, that quite often in the early days you're doing things that feed the relationship, but you don't realize that's what's feeding the relationship. And then when children come along, life's so busy and intense, you forget to do the things, or you stop doing the things that fed the relationship. And so you start down
Well, I was
on
going to
this
say,
painful
you're
path.
probably doing the things that feed the relationship because it feels easy and feels good and everything is nice and you're not tired and, you know, I'm happy to give. But once the thing flips a little bit, now you're tired. Now there's something else. There's another priority in the way. People get selfish. And I think it takes a real level of maturity to be able to say, actually, you know what? Yeah, this is the right thing. Let me do the right thing rather than the easy thing, the comfortable thing, etc. What would you say to these young parents? And quite, it's not necessarily just the young ones, but to them in particular, so the early into that parenting journey. What one bit of advice would you give to them to just say, actually, you know what? Focus on that. If you did that, that could really help you down the road. You wouldn't have these problems, or at least the problems would be to a lesser extent.
I suppose the main one for me, as I say to parents, is the communication, because if that stops, or we become restricted in what we can think or feel that we can say, then the other parent doesn't understand. Do you know what I mean? And this is what we said to parents when they talk is, you know, how are you feeling? And if we can really support parents to say, look, I'm really having a bad day today, I feel really quite down, I feel very emotional, you know, for all of us, whoever we are, including, look at the royal family, and divorces, separation, Harry, fallouts, and all the rest of it. But if we can honestly be honest enough to say, I'm having a bad day, or I'm feeling really low, or I'm feeling really sad, or I'm feeling really scared, I think it really helps parents, certainly when the transition of coming from a relationship as a couple to them becoming parents is communication is vital. And to respect that enough to say, look, can we get some help? Or look, can I help you? Or should I phone mom? Or do you want your dad? Or can we do this? Or look, go to bed, don't worry, I'll have the baby. Or, you work as a team. Because I said, just because we take roles in life, which we all have to do, and we identify whether, somebody's going out to work 5 days a week or, a bit of part-time work or anything, we're all trying to do our best. And just because somebody might be doing an extra day at work to the other parent being at home or anything, doesn't mean we're taking any less of the responsibility. These children are yours, solely half and half. Do you know what I mean? So whether you're with that child more in the daytime, but dad then puts them to bed at night, or dad's not really here, but you have them, they're still your children. And they will be till you take your last breath. So what you put in is what you get out. And I say to parents, please, your children need you to lead by example. To even when things don't go right, you can say to your children, look, things weren't going too good, weren't feeling too right, but this is what we're going to do to try and get it better, because you're teaching them. And one of the biggest mental health preventive work is showing children that, if things aren't feeling good, aren't feeling right, you put your hand up and say, over here, please, I need some help, and without feeling too shy of it. So I think, definitely. Yeah, I think if we can honestly have some really honest communication between couples to say, feeling good, I'm here for you, don't panic, or look, I'm feeling crap, not feeling good, don't worry, or look, we're both feeling not too good, let's get some help.
Yeah, that takes real emotional maturity, though, doesn't it? Or the willingness to be vulnerable. And I suppose one of the ways to help people do that, we encourage them to push past the frustration and the natural desire to attack the other person and move to the ask. What's the ask that you have of them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, with the current process, which has been over probably 10 years now, is that families that really are struggling financially and then come into a place of perhaps separation or even looking at divorce, there is really very limited legal aid assistance. So unless there really is domestic abuse, domestic violence, legal aid is just non-attainable now. And unfortunately, what has then done is brought a bit of a pattern where parents might exaggerate, or because it happened a bit of an argument or something was said, it just escalates into a situation where, even social services are overrun with their back door being banged all the time now, because there's no legal representation for parents who are going through some difficult times to even have some proper insight, legal advice to say, look, calm down. Let's look at what some help you can have. You don't need to be issuing divorce papers right now. You're just in a bad place. This is happening. And solicitors will talk to clients like that. There has to be some rationale to even what you're putting down on a divorce application. So solicitors will say, look, hold on, calm down. But, if parents can't get through the door to even get to them because there is no financial support, we are really not helping a huge majority of families out there, because they just can't afford it. So we have the community interest company also, because I don't see it as just being able to help families that can afford to pay for the service. It's also helping families regardless, because for the children. So we try and offer the Parenting Apart program with obtaining funding from the National Lottery, other organisations, so we can actually offer it as the 4-week program free of charge, or even if they do a contribution of £10 each, so there's a bit of a buy-in. But it's so needed. It's so needed. And when parents are struggling, the biggest thing also behind it is the financials. A lot of them haven't got the money to really, what I call, survive and have a quality of life. And you look at the cost of living today and you read it and you see it. Parents, certainly to even, 12 months ago, can I put the heating on, or am I going to feed the kids? Exactly. First century, what is going on? It's too much
And
pressure for parents. It's too much.
and the percentage of people going through that is way too high,
Yeah.
way too high. We're always thinking, what can be done upstream before they get to this point. But thank God for, the Parenting Apart program and yourself and your colleagues for being there when things do start falling apart. I think there's so much more that we could ask or
Absolutely.
talk about, but we're conscious of time. Claire, we love your passion. Uh, my wish for anybody, any couple going through separation and divorce, is that they'd encounter you. I think you'd help them think twice and step up to the plate to do right by the children. How can people get in touch with Parenting Apart? What's the website? What's the process?
Yeah, well, if anybody Googles, just goes into Parenting Apart program, it will come up. It's there. Most of the local solicitors, we're based in Worcestershire, but we now are nationwide, really. We're all over the place. So really, contact us through the website. You can put an inquiry in. We will come straight back to you on an email, and then we'll book parents in for a free half-an-hour consultation. So at least parents or professionals can pick the phone up and just say, what is it you do? How do you do it? What does it feel like? What is
Yeah,
it? What support can we get? Then absolutely. And parents don't necessarily need to be going through divorce or separation. It's even
that
parents
was my
just in
question.
conflict.
Yeah,
Things aren't really feeling too good. The communication's a bit wobbly, not really sure. Then get help. A bit like to that question, what can they really do? It's really about supporting communication, talking to each other, and supporting relationships in every best way possible to allow children to continue to thrive and to have a childhood that they actually rightly deserve.
And I was going to say our audience is quite international, actually. I'm guessing you don't have a problem with people calling you from the US or wherever it happens to be around the world, as long as you can have that conversation.
Absolutely.
Parents,
We
people.
absolutely, well, since COVID hit us all, obviously
There you
very,
go.
very, very sad and obviously very difficult times. But what it did do is also open up the strength of Zoom calls, and
Yeah,
been on Teams. And we've had families like been in Holland, and some have been in Switzerland, been in Australia, and we just really help parents then, even through talking like this, because it can and it does make a difference. So,
absolutely.
it's all about that, being able to talk to each other, and again, saying how we feel, where we're at, and where we really want to be.
wonderful.
It's been great.
It's
As we
been
end though, Claire, is there one thing, maybe something you haven't had a chance to say as yet, or one bit of advice you'd like to give? Any last tip you'd like to leave the audience with?
Just remember, children are probably the most precious and very. Childhood is such a short period of time,
Mm.
and I'm certainly sitting here as a nana now, and I love every second of every moment. I'm called Naughty Nana. We get into terrible trouble, but that's the nana's prerogative. I just said, to my daughter. But I have a granddaughter and a grandson, and I absolutely adore them. We all do. But just enjoy your children, because before you know it, they're only children for a very short period of time. And as much as there's some hard days, really enjoy the good days, and yeah, let them feel safe and secure with you both as families. That's the most important. And forget money, forget everything. Your health. If you haven't got your health, doesn't matter what money you've got in the bank account, whatever. Your life is limited then. So yeah, grab it with both hands, look after each other, and yeah. Just enjoy your children.
amazing. What a great
Lovely
note
note
to
to end
end
on.
on.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Claire, for your time and for joining us in the
Thank you. Thank you
podcast.
for having me. I've loved every minute. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Absolute pleasure.
Really important conversation. Thanks for joining us. And it's bye-bye to everybody, and see you on the next podcast. Thanks for being with us.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, and you want to hear more, the best thing to do is subscribe. Then you'll never miss an episode. There's a new one every Friday. You can stay connected with us on social media at The 4 Habits for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and to participate in discussions related to the show. We always love to hear from you. And of course, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review on your preferred platform to allow us to reach more listeners and help people around the globe radically transform the way they do relationships, so they too can enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life.